Hi, this is Kimberly. Before we get started, I'd like to address something briefly. I've added the word critique to the title of these videos because that's what I've been doing with the Letters from Christopher series. A few people have complained that I've added my thoughts to each synopsis. For example, calling Christopher chicken shit or saying his head is up his ass, that sort of thing. My intention when I began this series was to do a brief synopsis or a summary on each chapter. Yet when I started reading the book, I was faced with a dilemma. I found it difficult to summarize a chapter that makes contradictory statements or just does not make sense. Chapter names not alluding to its subject matter, sentences that instead of forming a paragraph just form blocks of text without clear organization. Sometimes there's confusion on who's giving the narrative, if it is Chris talking or Mrs. Cadle in her opinion. It's not nitpicking when you can't follow the damn story because of inaccuracies, misspellings, and general confusion. I've been scolded for criticizing and picking apart the author. I've been told to just ignore the errors and work around it. I've been offered a variety of suggestions and recommendations. For example, drink some water, quit making a clicking sound with your mouth, and my personal favorite, quit breathing. But predominantly, I've been told just summarize the damn book and be done with it. And after careful consideration, I've made a decision. My decision is no. Hi, this is Kimberly. This is a synopsis and a critique of Chapter 13 of the book Letters from Christopher, Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders by Sherilyn Cadle. This chapter is titled The Days After. The chapter starts out with Chris convinced an evil force was pursuing him, living in his home and making him have a recurring dream. Evil forces, it seems, can cause wicked and bad things to happen, such as turning on all the lights in the house. Always in a dream form for Chris until it happened for real, according to him, on the night of August 13th into the early morning of August 14th, 2018. In his premonition, he would dream he was lying in his bed asleep and all of the lights in the house were on. Then he realizes he is all alone and his family is gone. Then it happened in real life the night of August 13th. He had turned off all the lights and went to bed after a long day. He awoke with all the lights on and it creeped him out. An officer sitting outside the home surveilling him confirmed in his report that lights were on throughout the house. Chris is quite certain that it is the work of evil spirits. The author questions, was Chris sleepwalking? Was his mind preparing him? Was it God's warning? Mrs. Cadle tells us that it is said sometimes a dark spirit will follow a person around for a while. I don't think there's a source for this, just that it is said. The author says, quote, in the weeks leading up to the murders, this disturbing dream made him realize there was something that was coming after him. He realized it had been chasing him until it caught him, end quote. Chris was for real, freaked out by this apparent dark spirit. So he put himself on the downstairs couch and tried to sleep the rest of the night. He felt totally alone. Well, he was totally alone, having just annihilated his entire family. So yes, I feel like this dream was symbolic. The lights are on, but nobody's home is symbolic of his dumbass empty head. And then these two sentences, quote, he thought to himself, how could he justify his family gone, and the only feeling he had was relief. And he was not feeling sad or remorseful. He just wanted to be able to get on with his life, end quote. The author asks the following questions and then provides no answers to them. Quote, did he really believe he and Nikki could be happy after he had done something like this? What could possibly have been going through his mind? End quote. Well, did you ask him, Mrs. Cadle? We want to know too, and that would have been something of interest to put in your book. Noting that he had a headache, Chris got up and scrambled a couple of eggs for himself, and a detective called him as soon as he sat down to eat. So I remembered from the discovery that this detective called Chris a couple of times that night with no answer. And wasn't it Chris that called him back? I'm pretty sure he called him from his work phone, maybe around 2 a.m. I remember the time because it was unusual to me for them to be making phone calls at that early morning hour. But not really so much if your entire family is missing. Plus, I was thinking, what the hell is going on exactly? I wanted to know, so I pulled out the Discovery and searched it again. But this is getting exhausting. However, on August 13, 2018, at 23:09 hours, which is 11 p.m., 9 minutes after 11 p.m., Ksg called Watts and held a 51-minute conversation. Then she deleted it from her phone. At 1:58 a.m., Watts played phone tag with a line at the Frederick Police Department. This is from the Discovery. 2:07 a.m., Watts made an unanswered call to Ksg. She called him back seconds later, and they had a 10-minute conversation. And just a fun fact, while I was looking at the Discovery, at 9:29 a.m., Chris transferred one last image into his secret calculator app, a semi-nude selfie of Ksg. Shanann's unnamed friend had contacted the media without consulting with Chris to do an interview on his missing pregnant wife and 2 daughters. Chris apparently did not want to do it, but followed the advice of a friend who told him it might look bad if he did not do the interview. While he was doing the interview, canines were doing their inspection of the home. The doll photo is mentioned as Chris having been the one to take it with his phone, and then he sent it to Shanann while she was in Arizona. The book says, quote, "This is one of the things he did during the time he was having thoughts of planning the murders. It was posted to be funny," end quote. Funny? To who? And why would you put these 2 sentences together? And then no further detail. Let me read those sentences again. This is one of the things he did during the time he was having thoughts of planning the murders. It was posted to be funny. I don't get it. So Mrs. Cadle confirms that Chris did take the doll picture, which we knew. I guess it was funny in the same way he could not stop his stupid ass grinning while he was doing the front porch interview with the media. I wanted more information about the doll picture. Even if that information was Watts refused to discuss it, just something more. I remember seeing Mrs. Cadle in an interview when she was promoting her book before it came out, and she said that it was explored in the book. Giving us a couple of sentences about it doesn't really say. I don't call that exploring. Cadle describes the route the canine took throughout the home, starting in the formal living room, went through the dining room, the kitchen, the neatly organized pantry, the family room, and then this, quote, "The dog moved downstairs to the hall that led to the guest bathroom and the 5th bedroom that had been turned into Shanann's office," end quote. Downstairs? I was confused. Her office was in the basement? This didn't seem right. So off to the internet I went for floor plans of the house. I found them, but we all know how this goes. I was distracted for at least a couple of hours. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I had surfed the entire internet and gone way off topic. But I feel like I now know the entire house inside and out, and that thing is huge. And truthfully, all this time I thought Shanann's office was upstairs with the bedrooms, but it's not. It's on the main floor off of the family room, actually between the family room and the garage. Sometimes those bedrooms are called a guest bedroom or maid quarters, and Shanann had made it into an office with the Hello Gorgeous walk-in closet, and it also contained hers and Bella's vision boards. These are my own little nuggets, not the author's. But let me get back to the sentence that led me off track. The dog moved downstairs to the hall that led to the guest bathroom and the 5th bedroom that had been turned into Shanann's office. I now believe Mrs. Cadle meant to say down the hall, not downstairs. And, quote, just a few weeks earlier, she had posted a video from that office bragging about how lucky she and the girls were to have Christopher, end quote. I think I know the video she's talking about. Was it the one where Shanann was wearing a Purple Thrive t-shirt and said incorrectly that Chris was the best thing that ever happened to her? That video started off in the formal living room and moved to outside. I told you I'm familiar with way too much of this case, But in this video, Chris was sitting on the floor playing with the children and ignoring the hell out of Shanann. In this video, Shanann hauntingly says at about the 7-minute mark, quote, "We are not promised tomorrow," end quote. This was filmed just 3 months before her death. But back to the chapter. Cadle then goes on to talk about the creepy dog giggle in the closet of Shanann's office, and then the canine went upstairs to inspect and mentions that the dog alerted by the door that leads out to the garage. Chris told Cadle earlier in the book that he had laid Shanann by the door going out to the garage while he went to get his truck and back it down the driveway. But she tells us nothing about the canine going absolutely insane down in the basement. I want to know what went on in that basement. That dog made some ear-piercing barks down there. And didn't the dog also alert under Bella's bed? I don't want to have to go investigate that too. I just really wish she had asked questions about the dog alerts to Chris. The book then says that Chris talked with Nikki that day and that she asked him where his family might be. He denied knowing anything to her, and Cadle says, quote, "But somehow she could tell by his voice that something was not exactly how he was saying it was. When they got off the phone, she cleared all of his text messages and phone calls from hers. Then she was concerned it would appear she was involved, so before the police found her, she decided to go to them," end quote. But how did you know to put in the book that Nikki could, quote, "tell by his voice that something was not exactly how he was saying it was," end quote? I know there had to be so much more surrounding how their affair went south. Perhaps it will be explained in a later chapter, but I wanted to know more about when, as according to the Denver Post, quote, "It got to a point that he was telling me so many lies that I eventually told him that I did not want to speak to him again until his family was found," end quote. Did you, Mrs. Cadle, ever ask him if he ever considered, even for 1 second, that it was all done for nothing in his warped little mind? Did you ask him? Cadle talks about a huge thunderstorm that blew in that afternoon on August 14th, and how 3 of the neighbors' trash cans ended up in the front yard. How it was symbolic. Quote, "It really hit him hard when during the sentencing, Frank Rusick made the statement, 'You threw them all away like they were garbage,' end quote." That's an inaccurate quote, but hit him hard how? Tell us. Please, just tell us. She does tell us that he did not seem to, quote, get there was going to be others negatively affected by his heinous acts, such as Shanann's parents and her brother. They were also grandparents and an uncle, that they would be beside themselves with grief. Chris's own parents were believing at the time that Shanann had disappeared with the girls just to get attention. She then tells us that Chris went to the police station Tuesday evening around 8 p.m. to be questioned, and he left around 11 p.m. After agreeing to a polygraph test the next day, his friends were waiting for him outside, and he went to their house to spend the night. I know all of this. I want to know Chris's version of events on Monday and Tuesday. The only thing new I learned in this chapter is the location of Shanann's office, and I looked that up, and that an evil force was pursuing Chris. And then we got a casual recap of the discovery. That is hardly jaw-dropping. Missed opportunities of picking Chris's little brain are the following: the front porch interview, the doll photo, the canine in the basement, questioning Chris about what was going on between him and Nikki on Monday and Tuesday. How did he feel when he left the police station that night? Was he confident? And I know he has no feelings, but was it awkward with his friends Nick and Amanda and spending the night at their house? And in the words of NK, why did Chris not ask for a lawyer? And that will be the end of this video. I will pick up with chapter 14 in the next one. Much love and peace. Thank you so much for listening.